What is going on, YouTube? It is Primitive here, and this is going to be round 2 of the J&J locals that happened yesterday, and this is going to be between myself on the left. I will be playing Imperial, and then on the right we're going to have Team Scrub Out playing the Rafflesimon control. So you can go ahead and check out his YouTube channel at Team Scrub Out. So they also upload a lot of battle content. So if that interests you, be sure to check that out. But getting into the game, it's going to be just a relatively slow start as we start to build up. Going into the Lilamon, I will go to 2 memory, and that will allow me, if I want to go into an ultimate of my own and put my opponent at 1. But I will decide to Davis here, getting both Dino B and getting the Imperial. So my opponent knows that I can go into Imperial now because I guaranteed have the ultimate and the Imperial, so they'll have to keep that in mind. Going to promote the Lilamon, which did surprise me a little bit. Obviously, I don't have anything super crazy like I'm playing Lord Nightmon where I could punish this, but I could Kaitis Breath it if I do have that, and then bounce back to hand and really slow down all of the progression that they have. Now my hand here isn't the most amazing. I can go into Dino B if I want, and then swing, and then go into Imperial and unsuspend. But I have to keep in mind that there is Chaosmon in this deck, so if my opponent decides to go into a Mega like Rafflesimon and then go into Chaosmon, they can just swing over my Imperial and I'd be in a pretty bad spot, and so I have to keep planning around things like that. So I actually decide to put another champion on board because my opponent's going to go to 3 anyway, and then this way, since I have 2 Dino Beamons in hand, I can go ahead and start digivolving those on top, and having multiple targets to go Imperial will give me a lot more safety in what my opponent does, because if they get rid of one of my Digimon, then I still have the opportunity to go into Mega. So having the other champion is pretty good. The Terriermon comes out, which is not what I wanted to see, because this deck has a very hard time getting rid of those type of cards, and so shutting off my memory gain from my Hammer Sparks is going to be pretty annoying, because there's already one in hand, so that card's shut off as of right now until my opponent either for some reason swings with it, Digizorps it, or Digivolves on top of it. So I kind of have to chill with that. Going to play the Lilamon there with a little bit of force, it looked like, and my opponent has Champion, Rookie, and Ultimate, so they could really Digivolve into any stage that they want there. So they are going to Digivolve Digiburst, which will shut down my Dino Beamon for a turn. I moved the memory gauge up there because I mistakenly for a second thought it was Weedmon, but we will very shortly correct that. My opponent still is at 0 memory. They didn't gain the memory there. And so they do go for the swing, Digivolve into Kabutery, and then I will end up going to 3 thanks to the Davis. And so now my opponent has a suspended Rafflesimon, which I could potentially swing into with Imperial, so I swing with Dino B here to get a check, and then I can Digivolve into the Imperial here, and then declare a swing into the Rafflesimon, which they will have to block, but then I can Digivolve into the Omnimon Blitz here, which will allow me to Blitz into the Rafflesimon and clear off their Mega. So although my Imperial is gone and I had to commit a bit of resources, my opponent is now out of their Mega that's on board, so I don't have to worry about Chaosmon coming out, and they're going to have to rebuild back up into a Mega. They'll have to Digivolve into a level 5 to get Mimi to work, and so we're going to see my opponent actually Digizorp the Terriermon here to go into Blossomon, which if they want a Nidhogg here, it's perfectly fine because I actually can negate it with my Omnimon, so I'm not too worried about whatever Mega they may want to go onto. If they want to go onto Rafflesimon and start Digibursting so I can't attack, that's fine. I think that'll only slow down a little bit and not really be extremely impactful. And with the Terriermon suspended, if I can swing over it, I can start playing my Hammer Sparks, which will give me a lot more use in my hand and let me do a little bit more dynamic plays with the extra memory. Now my opponent's thinking here is going to decide to go into the Nidhogg, and so I am going to use Omnimon's ability. Since it would be returned to my deck, I can go ahead and trash the level 6 to prevent it from going into my deck, so I can swing into the Terriermon now and get a piercing jamming check, which is extremely good because now, like I said, the Hammer Sparks are back live and I get a free check for it. My opponent Nidhogged, which they can Chaosmon into, which I do have to be slightly worried about, but I'm not extremely worried about it. The fact that they played the Nidhogg for not doing anything is not really too big of a deal for me. They just got rid of the level 6 underneath, so unless they have another card to get rid of it, then the Nidhogg wasn't the most impactful, but I can go into the Imperial here and start swinging. Now, I am thinking about considering the Kaitis Breath, the Nidhogg, back into hand so that there's nothing on board, but if I do, then I don't really want to swing with my Imperial because then they can build back up and Nidhogg again. And I don't have a level 6 underneath the Omnimon to save him again, so I am going to double Hammer Spark and then decide to Kakaida's Breath back into hand. I wanted to double Hammer Spark there because I wanted to put my opponent to as little memory as possible, because they're likely going to go up into a Mega here again, and I didn't want them to be at 6 or more memory, which would allow them to Digivolve for 3 into an Ultimate and then Digivolve for 3 into a Mega. So I decided to expend my Hammer Sparks there to bounce it. Another thing about this is I felt like getting the Hammer Sparks out for as relatively decent value, which I think making it so my opponent can't get into their Mega, like the Rafflesimon, to Digiburst is relatively good value, and with the Terriermon coming out at any point, they can get shut down, so I wasn't too upset about double Hammer Sparking there, because they can just get shut down and be useless, as we saw with the Terriermon, and unless my opponent starts to get reckless with their Terriermon again, it's going to be very hard for me to get over. But my opponent's just playing a couple of vegetables on the board now, and I can't just swing for game, assuming we don't hit Needle Spray or Hammer Spark, and we do just that. I thought about it for a second to make sure there wasn't any safety precautions that I needed to take, but just swung in for game, got the game there, and then pretty sure we had the Lobomon in hand to go on top of the Davis for an extra swing if something did happen. So we're going to see the opponent play Terriermon turn 1, and then I see them Digivolve on top of it, and right there I had a big sigh of relief, because I was like, okay, that's one Terriermon down, and that is a relatively annoying card. Shutting off my Hammer Sparks is super annoying. So to see one of them gone right away turn 1 is pretty good. We're going to Digivolve one of the Lobomon on top, because I just have a Grillamon and Sealamon as my other champions in hand, and I don't want to Digivolve for 1, because then I put my opponent to at least 3. So Digivolving the Lobomon on top puts my opponent to 1, and then they play Mimi, putting me at 3, which allows me to go into Imperialdramon, swing jamming, and then I can Digivolve into the Imperial to unsuspend for 3, since my opponent's going to go to 3 anyway, and then this way I am not in danger of being swung over or being hit by Nidhogg or anything like that. And with the Imperialdramon underneath, I am now exerting a lot more pressure than I did with the Dino Beamon underneath, because I can get multiple swings a turn and then go into Omnimon. But we see the opponent be suspended, and then they're going to Digivolve into the Rafflesimon, putting them down to 0, but they can Digiburst to shut down my Imperial for a turn, which is obviously extremely annoying, because with the Imperialdramon down, that means that there's multiple swings not going. And if you're looking at my hand, you may have noticed the spicy tech that I have, which is the Bancho Stingmon in my hand, and so we may or may not see Bancho Stingmon come into effect this game. It obviously is not going to do anything against the Rafflesimon, because Rafflesimon is only 11k, so we don't get the boost and the security checks unless they are 12k or higher. But if we do go into something like a Nidhogg, it could be very devastating. But that is my little secret tech. I guess I don't know if other people are doing it or not. I don't want to seem like the innovator if this is something that people already do, but I haven't seen it, and once it was in my brain, I couldn't take it out of my brain, so we're testing the Bancho Stingmon, and so we have the Dino Bee, so if we wanted to go into the Bancho Stingmon, we have the capabilities to do so over the Dino Bee, and my opponent's going to suspend. I'm extremely curious about what's happening here, which is why you see me look over at the card, but then there is a DP boost. So they will go from 11 to 13 from the Yokomon Digiburst that the Lilamon gave, and unfortunately that is not till the end of your next turn, that is till the end of that turn, so I can't sneak out some sneaky Bancho Stingmon stuff right there, but we're not going to try to force the Bancho. It's only there if it does good. I just want to test it. But I will say that when I came into this tournament, the one thing that I really wanted to do was swing at something with Bancho Stingmon as Imperial, and I thought it would be really fun. So I'm going to promote here. I'm going to swing Jamming and Piercing, and then I can go ahead and unsuspend going into Imperial. This does give me the opportunity to swing over Rafflesimon, and I don't have to worry about Nidhogg on my opponent's end, because they don't have enough Digiburst sources to do the Nidhogg effect. So I don't feel so bad about being suspended, but as you see, I'm going to go ahead and Hammer Spark and use the Kakaida's Breath. Once again, I'm using the Hammer Sparks for less memory gain, because as of right now, they can be shut off at any point. I know my opponent plays 2 to 3 Terriermon in their list, so I don't want my Hammer Sparks to get shut off, and I'm in a position right now to where with my Imperial on board and my opponent having nothing on board and then having nothing in raising is going to make it so that I pretty much just slow them down. Like, I gave them a lot of memory, the 6 memory, but they aren't doing anything super crazy here until I remember that the Mimi can happen, and then this is where it becomes a problem because HPD can become a big problem very quickly. See, as we see, the Terriermon did come out, so that Terriermon could have been there at any point, so that's why I was trying to be a little more aggressive with my Hammer Spark usage, because I was sitting with multiple Hammer Sparks before that didn't get any use, but my opponent's going to Digivolve on top of it, so it was a little bit of something that I didn't have to worry about. Because the Terriermons are now offline. I'm not sure if they play a third or not, but I have to keep around because I know they play at least 2. Go ahead and Davis. I grabbed the Tobyumon just because I figure with the choices that I was giving, none of them are super appealing, so I'll just take the Tobiu because it's a cheap dropping level 4 that I could go into Dino B or Imperialdramon on top of for relatively cheap. So going to grab the Tobyumon as just a kind of backup measure. My opponent's thinking they don't really have a way to get rid of this Imperial outside of potential Chaosmon. So we're going to see them Lila here. They can Digiburst to suspend me, but then again that does shut off the Nidhogg because they won't have enough sources to do the Digiburst. But as we're going to see them Digiburst anyway to suspend me, gain a memory from the Weedmon, which will allow them to then go into Hidden Potential Discovered to tap their Cherrymon, go into Nidhogg. They don't get the effect of the Digiburst, but they are 13k to my 12k, which will swing over. So I felt like I was in a pretty good position, and now I'm feeling like I'm not in the super best position because now my opponent has a Nidhogg on board, which can go into a Chaosmon. They have the Cherrymon on board, and then they just hard played a champion to put me at the 3 that I would be at anyway. So I'm not looking in the most amazing position, but I do need to start building up in raising so that I can get up to another Imperial. You can see that I have the Omnimon in hand, so if I can get into the Imperial and then do multiple swings and then finish off with the Omnimon, that is going to be the best play that I can really do with the most aggression. I need to do something about this blocker. The longer this blocker sits here, the bigger of a problem it is going to be. My opponent's going to swing. My Gomamon gets suspended because of the Lilamon's effect since the Mimi's out. They're going to promote the Tentamon. I'm not in trouble of dying this turn, so I'm not extremely worried. My opponent's going to swing the Vegemon over my Gomamon. So with that suspended, I could potentially target that swinging with Piercing Jamming. Obviously, the Cherrymon's going to have say something about that, but anytime my opponent suspends a Digimon with my Dino Beamon coming out, I can threaten to just swing over it and get a Piercing check. And speaking of suspended Digimon, this is the point that I've been waiting for. I Digivolve into Bancho Stingmon. I swing targeting Nidhogg. Thanks to turn player priority, my Win attacking is going to proc and activate before they can declare their attack, or declare their block if they want to block with the Cherrymon, and so I do gain the 7k DP plus the 3 checks, so they are going to decide to block, but I will gain security attack plus 2 checks. They hit the Mimi, which is a little bit scary because I may have to worry about potential checks coming out, but I just got rid of 3 security checks and my opponent's blocker, which just is absolutely amazing because now I'm just 1 swing or 1 Lobomon away. I decide to play that Tobyumon that we grabbed earlier because my opponent's going to go to 3, and then with having the Tobyumon out, I could potentially go into Imperialdramon or Dino Beamon to get jamming checks, but both the things on my board are likely going to die. The Bancho just gets swung over, and the Tobiu can get Digibursted and swung over as well. So we're going to Digiburst, gain a memory, and then the Lalamon, I believe that's what it was, gets added to the hand. Now there's a couple Mimis that can hatch and then promote and then hatch again, but there actually isn't any eggs left, so can only just promote. Vegemon going to swing over the Tobyumon. My opponent's going to leave the Bancho Stingmon because the Rafflesimon has it locked down, so since I can't do anything over the top of this, there's really no reason for them to attack over it. They can just go aggressive, swinging in, hitting the Dino Beamon there. So I think I'm pretty much out of Dino Beamon, so I can't really threaten the Piercing Jamming anymore. My opponent's going to swing with the Lilamon, hit Omnimon, and so less checks out. My opponent's just going full swinging. The Vegemon and the Rafflesimon left to my unable to do anything Bancho Stingmon, and my opponent plays a Tentomon, and I'm just going to play Lobomon and swing for game, and I will take that set 2-0 and advance to 2-0 in the tournament. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed. I was really excited to commentate this match because when I played that Bancho Stingmon, it made me super excited because that was the main thing I really wanted to do with this deck. But with that being said, I hope you enjoyed. I will be back with round 3 and round 4 soon, so if you enjoyed, be sure to like and subscribe, and have a great day. Peace out.